Part 43. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 423. This morning, a news detonated public opinion in the small home appliance industry. Desheng Electric and Degan released a news at the same time. In the face of the current chaos in the small electric appliance industry, the quality level is uneven, which harms consumers. Hope establish industry standards. And these two companies are the ace companies of small appliances such as radios and tape players. Changhong and Panda also released the same initiative today, but the industry standard of the initiative published in the newspapers is different. They hope to use their own technical standards as the threshold. The reason is that the industry is continuously developing, and the threshold is suddenly raised too high. It is easy to get stuck in a large number of enterprises. It takes time to bring things right in the industry, and it also takes time for companies to accumulate technology. Interestingly, Desheng and Degan use their own technology as the advocacy standard, with the goal of blocking other companies or grading electrical appliances in the industry. As long as they are certified by the state, once they are graded, they will not be able to shake their market share in a short period of time. On the position, the two companies, Changhong and Panda, are trying to kill GFN Electronics, which is about to enter the market. For a while, the fire and brilliance of the small household appliance industry became strong, and everyone realized that this field would be the next battlefield for major manufacturers, especially when GFN Electronics came in. It might be messed up. Look. The gossip has been flying around. GFN Electronics business department is busy, Lyokin's desk is also full of newspapers, and the phone has not stopped all morning. When Lu Feng arrived at the downstairs of the company, he saw that no one greeted him, so he went upstairs alone. The front desk saw Lu Feng coming and hurriedly called Lu Cheng. "No need, I'll go by myself." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he walked towards Lu Cheng's office, pushed open the office door, and saw 5 or 6 executives sitting across from the desk, Lu Cheng talking on the phone. "So you mean that Desheng and Degan regard us as potential rivals? Our products haven't come out yet. Besides, as the domestic leader, are they afraid of us? The technology gap is huge." "Okay, thank you, I'll treat you to dinner when you have time." After a few polite words, Lu Cheng hung up the phone. He raised his head and found Lu Feng coming. He hurriedly stood up and said, "Mr. Lu, when did you come?" "It's been a few minutes, what's the matter?" Lu Feng asked, looking at everyone with a look of trouble. "Look at the newspapers." Lu Cheng handed Lu Feng the newspapers on the table, some of which were faxed. After reading the newspaper, Lu Feng's face was not very good. It was really a broken house and it rained overnight. The country will not agree to this kind of initiative, but it can be seen that everyone is eager to try it. Are Desheng and Degan the industry leaders? Lu Feng put the newspaper on the table and asked, "I remember the market. The ministry gave me a survey report, the overall domestic radio market. Their two companies accounted for as high as 45% of the market, and the market share of products such as tape players, stereos, and walkie-talkies is also very high. And there is a boss behind these two companies. The surname is Chen. I heard from some gossip that people have listed us as potential competitors, so this is the news in the newspaper." Lu Cheng was very worried. The people present were a little panicked. If it is a foreign brand, such as Sony and Sharp, they are not afraid. The technology gap is huge, and the consumer group in the terminal market is obviously divided. With the restraint of tariffs, it is obviously impossible for the other party to fight a price war. However, these two companies rushed forward like wolves, which was really enough for GFN Electronics. The most important thing is that everyone could see that Changhong and Panda seemed to be assisting. This is equivalent to a world-class boxer staring at it before a child is born, and several national-level players eyeing it at the same time. This paper proposal is likely to directly abort GFN Electronics' small home appliance plan. Seeing that everyone was in a low mood, Lu Feng smiled and said, "What are you panicking about? I'll do more work now and tell you the good news." "Good news?" With a smile on Lu Cheng's face, he asked, "What good news?" "The team that went to Hong Kong to seek financing. Financing failed," Lu Feng said calmly. "This is good news." Everyone present felt dark in front of their eyes and almost fell to the ground. Lu Cheng held the table with his hands and took a deep breath and came over. "Look, in comparison, it's not a big deal, right?" Lu Feng pointed at the newspaper with a grin. "It really doesn't matter, not to mention the small household appliance project, even Wiputa may be yellow." Lu Cheng can't understand, Lu Feng can still laugh at this time. "Mr. Lu, are you kidding me?" Lu Cheng asked. "No, I didn't intend to tell you, but when I see you encounter such a few things, it's like this, I just stimulate and stimulate you. You must be able to handle things, don't think that a stable life is the norm. My entrepreneurial style is like this, the company is on the verge of bankruptcy at any time, and this is the path chosen." Lu Feng looked around and said, "Prepare the conference room for a meeting. Tomorrow I will fly to Xiangjiang to deal with it. Today, I mainly explain the reorganization of the R/U0026D company and the direction of product development." "Okay," Lu Cheng prepared to instruct the person next to him. Lu Feng was still worried when he saw the faces of several executives. He was very familiar with this situation, and these people were probably already thinking about finding a new home after the new year. Let me say one more thing, each company has its own culture and spirit. Some companies are united and hard-working, some companies are harmonious, and some companies are wolf-like competition. Our company has 2 words, life-threatening. Mr. Lu pasted these 2 words for me in the company, and wrote a sentence at the door. Let life bloom once, make life worthwhile. Lu Cheng tasted these words and nodded in agreement. In the conference room, everyone was seated, and Lu Feng said straight to the point, the R/U0026D company's goal for next year is to expand and attract talents widely. You can choose suitable talents from the Talent Reserve Center, or you can go overseas to poach talents, and you can also build overseas research base. Cooperation in various fields. As long as people are willing to cooperate with us, we will cooperate, and we can also suffer a little loss. We buy some instruments and let them try it for free, but let our people go in and observe. There are no rules in technological competition. Use the means to use the means, and use different methods for each talent. My idea is that within 3 years, the technology field will rank among the first class domestically produced. Mr. Lu, can we sell patent licenses? Now we are Panda Technology. In fact, companies like Sharp also license externally, but they are only some outdated technology patents, an executive suggested. It is normal to start slowly and buy other people's technology patents, and I do not reject this, but when using it, a red line must be drawn. The core technology and the company's internal R/U0026D should account for no less than 100%. 40%, other technical patents, no less than 20%. The red line is drawn so that the road of research and development will not go astray. Of course, it is comfortable to use other people's products. You can design a casing and change a few jacks, and you can apply for a patent. I took a look at the company's patent this year. Most of them are concentrated in these. The reorganization of the R/U0026D company is very simple. It will be changed to a business group unit, and special business groups will be established. For example, the radio business group, each business group is not less than 2 teams. Group, from screen technology, motherboard technology, material technology, digital information technology, etc. A large group of products is formed, each performing its own duties, but each product has no less than 2 teams to do it, and internal competition is carried out. If the 2 teams cannot compete internally, they can conduct market experiments, and our sales network will pave the way. It's getting bigger and bigger, and whether the product is good or not, you'll know when it's on the market. Don't tell me so many professional things, the market acceptance is not good, just not good. Of course, there will be exceptions. Some forward-looking technology investments will be planned for long-term technology development. Lu Feng subconsciously wanted to touch the cigarette from his pocket, but suddenly remembered that Zhang Xiaoyan had confiscated his cigarettes. Everyone performs their own duties, you don't need to worry about money matters, and the market is not under your control. The company is out of money, it must be my responsibility, I can't get the money back, it's my incompetence, but I gave you money, you guys, if I can't make something, I won't agree. The scene was silent, everyone lowered their heads and felt the pressure on their bodies. Lu Cheng sat on the side and did not speak. Even if he was given 100 million yuan, this kind of leap-forward development made him feel a lot of pressure. However, after thinking about it again, the pressure on Lu Feng was even greater. After all, what he had to face was how to get money back from outside. The overall direction is in this direction. President Lu has come up with a feasible reorganization plan. I don't know much about the various departments of the R/U0026D company, so I won't intervene much, Lu Feng said to Lu Cheng, and there is product development direction. What the product needs is to solve people's convenience, don't do fancy research and development, don't need 2 steps if you can do it in 1 step, it's better to make it a fool style, remember one sentence, high technology is to make people lazy, no matter how good the technology is, if it needs to make users worry about it, it is garbage. According to this idea, let's simplify the 3 products yesterday, and simulate the daily use of the products. Don't the buttons of the tape machine feel small? Don't you feel awkward? When I was at GMA Foods, I did my own research and development and made beverage cans. Any product made, first let everyone in the factory eat it for 3 days. It is not enough to not eat it. This is to find the shortcomings of the product, improve it, and design it. The gap between the ideal of the user and the reality of the user may be bigger than the sky and the earth, understand? Lu Cheng said from the side, we have conducted a lot of tests, but they are all technical tests. I will send the tape players and radios in stock in a while, and I will be the first to use them. Is there anything else? Lu Feng asked. One thing, didn't you attend an e-summit last year? This year, you sent an invitation. The organizer called you, but no one answered. You called me yesterday, and I hope you will be there. Success. Lu Feng sneered, the organizer was really interesting. Last year, he stood on the stage and scolded those people with blood. The dispute over technology, industry, and trade or trade, industry and technology is still arguing. As long as you go, the entire electronics industry has to go. The organizer's favorite thing is to do things. It is best for these entrepreneurs to brainstorm on the spot. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 424. Last year, because of Lu Feng, the backlash was particularly enthusiastic. How could he be absent this year, and I still want to rely on him to hype some topics? When? Lu Feng asked. The end of December, or the beginning of January, about that time. When the time comes, I'll go when I can, and I won't go if I can't. Lu Feng stood up and said the end of the meeting. I had a meal in the company at noon, and exchanged some management issues with Liukin about the R/U0026D company. Only a good system can retain talents. Lu Feng knows too much about the drawbacks of the R/U0026D team. Many times, one person who contributes is rewarded by the leader. In this way, the lower-level talents will be dissatisfied, and if they dig a little from the outside, they will immediately leave. Therefore, Lu Feng requires that there should be explosive incentives for talents who have made outstanding contributions. To achieve this effect, internal management must be strict, and there must be no nepotism and gangs. Once the mind is put on these things, the company basically loses half of it, and everyone is delving into the world, who is still engaged in research and development. Zhang Fengxia's experience in management is still very rich, and you can exchange more information. After Lu Feng finished eating, he called Zhang Fengxia. "Hey, what's the matter with Mr. Lu?" Zhang Fengxia asked on the other end of the phone. "It's me, Lu Feng. Do you know about today's newspaper?" Lu Feng asked. "I watched it in the morning. I thought about responding, and chatted with the person in charge of the business department. They didn't name the name. It seems that we are going out to be a bit of a fire, so I won't say anything for now. If you don't speak up, the industry has already discussed it, and it is useless to avoid it. Let the Commerce Department also send a proposal tomorrow. The country has the initiative and idea of first wealth leads to wealth later, and enterprises should also have the ideological awareness that the advanced drives the backward, and common progress is what an excellent enterprise should do." Zhang Fengxia on the other end of the phone laughed when she heard Lu Feng's words. He was simply disgusting these companies. Lu Cheng, who was sitting beside him, also laughed. The words were blocked. "Let's see what you say. The whole initiative should be based on the big picture. It is best to do it." They refuted our point of view, that is, they are enemies of human beings, and they raise the banner. Finally, let me hint that the market share of those companies is almost touching antitrust law. Okay, Zhang Fengxia said with a smile, "You disgusting person is really good at it. If I were from the opposite company, I would be pissed when I saw this content. Your ticket is already booked. Tomorrow morning at 10 the half-past flight will arrive after 11 o'clock, and the Li Fang team will pick you up there." I see. Lu Feng thought for a moment and said, "I will call at any time during this time. Be prepared to run around." "I'm running around." "Yes, I'm fooling around over there. You have to help me run errands. You'll know when the time comes. One more thing, that Zhuang Yuntian called and asked where you were, and wanted to chat with you." "Zhuang Yuntian," Lu Feng thought for a moment and asked, "Who is it?" Zhang Fengxia on the other end of the phone rolled her eyes wildly and said, "Brother, you forgot after you lied to others. That Zhuang Yuntian who gave you 50 million is about to be a year old. People asked us when we became a state-owned enterprise, and it has grown so much now. He has no news at all. He has called the municipal government several times, but Secretary Kui doesn't answer at all, let alone Huang Youwei." Lu Feng remembered the guy who bought Jiafeng Electronics creditors' rights through the leather bag company. Don't pay attention to him. If he asks more closely, he will say that this matter is not written down, and the money will definitely not be swallowed up. After a year, he will be returned to him a lot. 50 million, after a year of use, there is no interest at all. Lu Feng's method is no longer available, and it is easy to be hated. Thinking of this, Lu Feng pondered in his heart, could it be this Zhuang Yuntian who is messing with him? "Which company does this Zhuang Yuntian belong to?" Lu Feng asked. "Fulong Fund, you really?" Zhang Fengxia was quite speechless. Lu Feng is like this. If you need it, you are Brittany, but if you don't need it, you are MRS Niu, so ruthless. Is it possible that this company is responsible for the incident this time? Li Fang didn't find out about it? It's also possible that you don't feel safe this trip. Let's talk about it when we go, and call us when the time comes. After giving a few instructions, Lu Feng hung up the phone and sighed a little helplessly. He offended so many people that he couldn't figure out who was going to harm him for a while. Lu Feng originally wanted to spit out bitterness with Lu Cheng, but he was afraid that his mind would be shaken. Entrepreneurship is just like that. All things need to be handled by oneself. Viputa TV has indeed established a firm foothold, but the profit is not enough to support the leapfrog development of GFN Electronics. The lack of money will follow GFN Electronics for many years. The best way is to go public, but Lufeng doesn't want to go public. Early financing releases a certain amount of equity, and employees are motivated to hold a certain amount of equity. After listing, a large number of shares need to be released. If the control is not good in the later stage, Lufeng will lose control of the company. Going downstairs and starting the car, Lufeng didn't want to go home. He walked along the road in the city at will, parked the car next to an elementary school, got out of the car, and went to the canteen to buy a pack of cigarettes. When no one is bothered and confused, he opens the car door, sits in the driver's seat and smokes a cigarette. The setting sun passes through the sparse leaves, and the speckled sunlight hits the front windshield. In Shenzhen in November, the weather was slightly cold, and it was just when school was over. Groups of children swarmed out at the school gate, calling Lao Zhang and Lao Wang, walking on their shoulders, their faces full of expressions. With a carefree smile, he entered the canteen together. Buy a pack of snacks. 4 or 5 little guys put their heads together to share the snacks. You have more, I have less. Chirping, laughing and playing is so joyful. Lufeng looked at him and smiled, then waved to one of them. Little devil, come here. The child glanced at Lufeng and was a little nervous. He walked over cautiously and asked, Uncle, what's the matter with you? Make a business with you, chat with me for a while, I'll buy you snacks. How about that? Lufeng started a business with these children. How much? Asked a little guy with a round head. Lufeng took out a $10 bill from his pocket and handed it over. The other party was shocked when he took the money. The boss with his mouth open was extremely exaggerated. Thank you, uncle. 4 or 5 guys turned their heads and ran towards the canteen, running and screaming for a fortune, a fortune. A few minutes later, one person walked out with a pile of snacks, standing next to Lufeng's car, looking at the car. Uncle, are you rich? This car is so expensive. It's not too expensive, 5 or 60,000, the crown car. I know, my dad said that the big bosses who drive this car are the kind of very, very rich people. Lufeng smiled and watched them take a puff of cigarettes, and asked, Are you happy? Happy, several people said in unison. One of the children seemed to see that Lufeng was very worried and asked, Uncle, are you upset? Uncle is a little tired. Just rest when you're tired. My dad said he was tired when he got home. Uncle is an adult. He is not qualified to rest, nor can he rest. Unlike you, he can rest at any time. Lufeng looked at them with envy. No matter how rich or powerful you are, you will always envy your youth, and you will always miss the old days. We are tired too. That's right, if you recite the text, you don't know how to beat the palm of your hand. Our old class beats people hard. That's right, Zhang Xiang was beaten and cried today. I didn't cry. I didn't cry. But your problems can be solved by beatings. For adults, sometimes it is difficult to solve. I am very tired. I am also an ordinary person. Abyss. Facing these chattering children, Lufeng seemed to open his heart and smoked his cigarette. I don't want to go home, I'm afraid I'll bring this emotion home, and I want to find someone to spit bitterness. Uncle, you should insist, just like Xiangzi in Camel Xiangzi. He is also very tired, but when he goes back, he can see Hu Niu. Although they often quarrel, my mother said, this is life. Camel Xiangzi, Lufeng thought about this text, a text about the little people at the bottom, and it was rare that a few elementary school students could taste the taste of life. He breathed a sigh of relief and felt a lot better. Lufeng felt that he shouldn't be here, he should go find his tiger girl. Let's eat, go home early, I'm in a better mood, goodbye. Lufeng closed the car door, threw the cigarette butt on the ground, glanced at the cigarette case beside him, threw it in the grass, and drove straight to the vegetable market. Right now is the peak season for grocery shopping, crowds are crowded, and there are noises of bargaining all around. People, everyone has a time to be hypocritical, but this kind of fireworks in the vegetable market, no matter what hypocritical you are, it will be put out. Too clean. After cutting the price for a long time, I bought the food and went home. I cooked 3 dishes, wiped the table, and mopped the floor. At 6:30 in the evening, Jang Xiaoyan came back and was a little stunned to see the house. "Didn't you go to the meeting?" Jang Xiaoyan wondered. "It's over, let's eat." Lu Feng came out with a plate of braised pork. Jang Xiaoyan looked at the dishes on the table with a smile on her face, and praised, "My man is so nice. Is that all right? You've already cooked for me, are you okay?" Jang Xiaoyan said to Duo, "Go get the tableware, don't move, I'll come." Jang Xiaoyan went into the kitchen talking, and shoveled out the vegetables from the pot very quickly. Lu Feng stood there and looked at her, reached out and hugged her from behind, rubbing against her hair. "Oops." Jang Xiaoyan struggled for a while, and said in disgust, "Goosebumps are all over, the child is watching." A smile appeared on Lu Feng's face, and a word came out from the depths of his heart. "Nice to have you." HTT. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 425. What is a home? Lu Feng in the previous life didn't know much about it. He was young, talented, handsome, and had assets of more than 200 million yuan. There were many beautiful women around him. But I have never fallen in love with anyone. Everyone knows their relationships well, money is money, and feelings are feelings. In the last life, Lu Feng believed that a person who gave all his assets for a woman was an absolute fool. He is a smart person, so smart that even if he has notarized his property before marriage, he is still reluctant to enter the marriage. Since he can get it without paying so much, why pay? At this time, he was sitting at the dining table and eating, but there was an indescribable warmth in his heart. This family could give him the courage and motivation to move forward. I will fly to Xiangjiang tomorrow morning. If it goes well, I will be back at the end of December. There will be an electronics conference to attend, and I will have to deal with the company's affairs. Let's spend it in Shenzhen this year, Lu Feng said towards Jang Xiaoyan. It's only New Year's Eve on February 10th this year. I know that you don't want to go back to my mother's house, so go to your house. Don't worry about these things. These are all things that we women's family worry about. The chopsticks dish was placed in Lu Feng's bowl and he said, "I'll pack your clothes for you later. I want to go back to the village to play," Duo shouted. Lu Feng smiled and patted Duo's little head without saying a word. After eating, Jang Xiaoyan muttered. It was the first time to go there. Pay attention to everything. Check the weather forecast at night. I don't know what the weather is like. Buy some clothes, you can't buy them yourself, find a woman to buy them for you. Lu Feng jokingly said, "If other women buy me clothes, you are not afraid that I will run away with them?" Jang Xiaoyan stretched out her hand and pinched him twice. She is such a nagging person. While packing her things, she thought for Lu Feng, what weather, and the car, and she also started her own business, knowing that some people are not easy to mess with, and the twists and turns inside are intricate. We're here to talk about business, not to fight with people. If you really can't do it, just come back and don't provoke people. People are locals, we are foreigners, we can't afford it, let alone money now. Even when we don't have money, it's not bad. As long as people are there, everything can be done all over again. If something happens to you, son, I can't fly without my wings. Oh, I got it, Lu Feng was a little annoyed while sitting beside the bed. You don't like it anymore, really? Do you want this coat? I lost it? I bought it when I was in a canning workshop. It's been many years. How many years can I have? I haven't worn it a few times in less than 3 years. This is a woolen coat. It cost 300 yuan to buy it. Zhang Xiaoyan looked back and forth several times, and felt that Lu Feng was wearing it. Going out does not match my identity, so I muttered something, took it back and put it aside for my eldest brother to wear. The suitcase was so big that it couldn't hold much stuff. She tossed it back and forth. After an hour, a big suitcase was full. Zhang Xiaoyan was sweating from exhaustion, sat beside the bed panting, glanced at Lu Feng and said dissatisfiedly, I can't even bring bowls and chopsticks when you leave me. Isn't it because of you? Lu Feng put his arms around her shoulders. Following you, I've also had blood mold for 8 lifetimes, Zhang Xiaoyan complained. How do you say this? It shouldn't be 8 lifetimes, it should be 16 lifetimes. You know I'm sorry? You can't even pack your clothes, and you can't wash your socks. You'll cook me a meal every once in a while to make me happy. No, I mean, it took me 8 lifetimes of blood and mold to marry you. 2086, am I good at math? Lu Feng stared at her and teased. You actually regret marrying me? Zhang Xiaoyan pinched Lu Feng by the neck and pressed her onto the bed. Lu Feng was pinched by her neck and felt a little itchy, so he shrank his neck and giggled, I was wrong, I was wrong. Where can I find a daughter-in-law like me? Did you not want me for a long time? Zhang Xiaoyan rolled over and rode directly on Lu Feng's body and asked, answer me. The main reason is that you have changed a lot in the past 2 years. Now, like a bitch. Zhang Xiaoyan shook Lu Feng's head with her hands, and she was so angry that she put her hands on her waist and said, why am I like a shrew? Have I been in a good mood for the past 2 years? You say, what a shrew I am, I won't say why today. Lu Feng was tired from her tossing and had to beg for mercy. Zhang Xiaoyan lowered her head and leaned against Lu Feng's chest. The two of them were extraordinarily peaceful at this moment. Looking up and seeing Zhang Xiaoyan's forehead, Lu Feng kissed and said, thank you for your hard work. After the company is stable, I will have a lot of time to accompany you. I don't know how many times you've heard this. From the canning workshop at that time, to the cannery, and then to GMA Foods, you should do your business well. Mom, why are you pressing on Dad? Duo rushed in and shouted. I'm playing games with my father. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little flustered by the question, and said anxiously, press my father to play games. I want to play too. After saying that, Duo climbed onto the bed, and then sat down on Lu Feng's face. Lu Feng felt suffocated for a while, and the thought in his mind was, damn, it's not his own. Holding Duo down, a family of 3 lying on the bed, teasing the children and teasing the wife, the nightlife is so comfortable, it is late at night before you know it. The next day, early in the morning, GFN e-commerce department published a proposal for small household appliances in several newspapers. With the occurrence of GFN Electronics, there was another quarrel in the industry. This initiative is full of yin and yang weirdness. On the surface, it says that advanced companies should help companies that do not meet the technical standards, they should have a broad mind, and the idea of the world is harmonious. It began to set standards to keep other companies out. This time, countless companies with average technical conditions have sided with GFN Electronics. Even a few days ago, they were still scolding GFN Electronics for running on the market of these companies at low prices. Today, it is a face. Businessmen, there is no camp and position, they always stand on the side of money. At 9 o'clock in the morning, many companies called the business department, asked to talk to Lu Feng, and questioned the starting point of this proposal. The person in charge of the business department was also very rigid and replied directly. We are talking yin and yang, and you can't stand it? President Liu scolded people even more harshly. For the sake of your blood pressure and heart, you should avoid it. The electronics industry has never been short of guns. Some people praise Sony, some people praise Sharp, and some people praise domestic products, but one thing is very similar: everyone scolds GFN Electronics. Lu Feng didn't care about these things for the time being. He stepped on the plane to Xiangjiang at 10:30 in the morning. His seat was by the window. As the plane started to sprint, Lu Feng felt that he was stuck on the seat. Slowly getting rid of gravity, Lu Feng saw the whole view of the airport, saw the dense crowd below, and wanted to see Zhang Xiaoyan in the crowd. Pity. The plane climbed quickly, and the people on the ground looked like little ants. Taking his eyes back, Lu Feng leaned on the seat and closed his eyes. He was also a little hesitant about this trip. There are no powerful people in this world, but there are only some people who can resist. Lu Feng has always felt that he is a person who can resist, but facing the current Xiangjiang, he is not sure. The financial system here is in the formation of geese. The geese who take the lead can intervene in almost all financial companies. The companies guarantee each other, trade, and entrust each other. The relationship is intricate and inextricably linked. The leading geese are HSBC, Standard Chartered, and Citigroup. The shares of these three banks are in a mess, and various entrusted holdings and leather bag companies are held. The root cause can be traced to Wall Street. In the last life, Lu Feng also had a lot of contact with the financial companies here, but it was already many years after his return, and he had heard of some chaos in the early years. This used to be a money laundering paradise, and Las Vegas is a paradise within a money laundering paradise. The development of Xiangjiang is inseparable from the mainland. To be precise, it is because the mainland has the prosperity of Xiangjiang. The goods are transferred, the port is settled, and the company is listed. This is the button between the inland and the United States, which is very closely connected. A large number of cheap items are manufactured in coastal areas, and exchanged into Hong Kong dollars from here, and trade globally. Why not cross the Hong Kong dollar and settle in RMB directly, in order to prevent financial shocks and currency shorting? Of course, there are also reasons for the lack of global creditworthiness of currencies. Many countries do not trust them. Multiple reasons have created the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone. That circle is not drawn casually, and success is not accidental, but a decision made after many considerations. This is also the reason why the national thief Saras shorted Xiangjiang a few years later. He wanted to short the RMB, but unfortunately there was no chance and he did not have the ability. Lu Feng's thoughts were a little chaotic and he thought too much. The plane was flying smoothly. The stewardess pushed the trolley out and poured coffee, drinks, and water for everyone. Everyone, we are about to land in Xiangjiang. Many people at the scene were already looking down. Most of the people on this flight were the first gold diggers. They wanted to go to Hong Kong to find some opportunities. They all have impressive abilities and think that Hong Kong has more opportunities than Shenzhen. As the plane landed, many people had already picked up their bags, and they didn't care about drinking the water they just poured. Lu Feng sat alone and took a sip of the Coke in front of him. Looking outside, the people who picked up the plane stood by and waited to unload their luggage. Lu Feng saw the people in front of them talking. Hearing that these people had a mainland accent, there was a touch of disdain on their faces. Is arrogance. Although they were only porters, they had an indescribable arrogance towards the mainland, as if they were superior to others. Lu Feng just looked at them. He knew very well that the status of the mainlanders here is not high. Looking back at the Hong Kong movies in the 1990s, most of the mainlanders who appeared in them appeared as bumpkins, upstarts, and opportunists. After drinking the Coke in the cup, Lu Feng stood up and got off the plane with his backpack. Over there, the shuttle bus. What are you waiting for? A person called to Lu Feng. Lu Feng walked towards the shuttle bus, a breeze blew, giving people a refreshing coolness. Got windy. Lu Feng muttered to himself. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 426. Going to the baggage claim area, grabbing his suitcase, Lu Feng walked towards the exit. As soon as he walked out, a man wearing a towed mirror stepped forward, put his arm around Lu Feng's shoulder, and asked in Mandarin, "He's from the mainland? Take a taxi." "No, thank you," Lu Feng reached out and took his arm off. Come on, you're welcome, where are you going?" "Mongkok." Kowloon, the other party reached for Lu Feng's suitcase. Lu Feng stopped and stared at him and said in standard Hong Kong language, "Brother, stay away from my luggage, don't blame me for being rude." The other party stared at Lu Feng, turned his head and walked away. When they went outside, many people held up signs to pick them up, but Lu Feng looked around and couldn't find the team leader. "President Lu. President Lu, this way," a woman's voice sounded beside him. Lu Feng turned his head and saw 5 or 6 people walking towards him. The leader was a woman in her 30s, with her hair tied back and glasses, giving her a somewhat capable feeling. A young man came over and took the suitcase from Lu Feng's hand. Li Feng held a bouquet of flowers and handed it to Lu Feng. "Mr. Lu, I am Li Feng, the Vice President of the Finance Department, and the person in charge of the financing team this time. I'm really sorry for causing you trouble, but I gave you this bunch of flowers, it's hard work." Lu Feng took the flower and glanced at it, handed it to the person next to him, and asked, "Have you checked the problem?" "It's not very clear now." Li Feng's confidence was not enough. "This is not the place to talk, go back to the hotel and talk about it. The current financial center belongs to Tsim Sha Sui. The central building, the universal building, and the stock exchange are all here. It is the heart of finance. The housing prices here are naturally expensive." Li Feng rented 3 cars, and Lu Feng and her sat in the back row, reporting what work they had done for so long. They had contacted 29 investment companies in a short period of time. Among them, 8 companies have entered into in-depth discussions, including industrial development, market prospects, 3-year development and planning, and 5-year development and planning. It is to break apart and smash it, and tell investors that as long as you invest in the shares, you will wait for the double in a few years. Being able to make money is a skill, and convincing others that you can make money in the future is indeed another skill, and you need to be fooled. Lu Feng listened to it all the way. This manager Li came from a financial background, and he basically put up data. She knew all kinds of growth data of GFN Electronics well, and showed these data to investment companies. "Where is the upstream company invested by Tianhong?" Lu Feng asked. "There are 3 companies that can do it. One is Yubond Insurance, which has bought a large number of their hybrid funds, and Tianhong Investment also insures its own funds from this insurance company, which is considered a risk hedge, and the other is HSBC. Banks have a lot of capital transactions, and another is Chen Capital, which guarantees the funds they sell. We don't know these 3 companies. Insurance companies are big international companies, not to mention banks. We have never contacted the rest of Chen's capital." "Where's the Fulong Fund?" Lu Feng asked. "This company is not involved," Li Feng replied. "It seems that this matter has nothing to do with Zhuang Yuntian." Lu Feng scratched his head with his hand, feeling a little irritable. After thinking about it, he really didn't know who he had offended. The car stopped at the gate of the Sheraton Hotel. The doorman had already opened the door. Lu Feng got out of the car and said, "Give me the information of the financial company after lunch. If there are any receptions recently, please also pay attention to it." "So fast? Mr. Lu, I think you should take a rest. You are very tired from the plane." Li Feng cared. "Yes, take a rest in the afternoon. I will be busy tomorrow. The people on the side opened their mouths to persuade, as if they were thinking of Lu Feng. No need, Lu Feng said and walked into the lobby. Li Feng and the others hurriedly followed. In their eyes, Lu Feng was someone they were afraid of. The person they had the most contact with on weekdays was the boss of the department. For a boss like Lu Feng, the inherent impression in their minds was that he had no expression on his face. A ruthless existence. On the 28th floor, standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, you can see the entire Tsim Sha Sui, the blue sea in the distance, and the high-rise buildings in front of it. The development here is absolutely rapid, and it has been growing rapidly throughout the 1980s. The prosperous here is not like a human world. Lu Feng was smoking a cigarette, and he understood in his heart what the investors thought. In fact, they were not that professional. They just looked at the popularity, the company's management level, the development speed, and the inherent assets. Except for the heat, other projects of GFN Electronics have already met the investment conditions. As for the popularity, it is nothing more than all kinds of headlines, all kinds of things. Lu Feng still remembers that Ma Sun started by bragging about himself, and all kinds of ridiculous words, and that alien face. This combination makes his company frequently exposed, saves a lot of advertising costs, and makes investors pay attention to him. If you want to get financing in the short term, you must do a big thing. Lu Feng already had a preliminary plan in his mind. There was a knock on the door. After Li Fang came in, he said cautiously, "Mr. Lu, the restaurant is ready." "Okay." Lu Feng turned his head and walked out, suddenly stopped and asked Li Fang, "What kind of news do you think will attract you?" Li Fang didn't expect President Lu to ask such a question, so he froze and said, "It's just gossip, what's wrong?" "Gossip," Lu Feng nodded, thoughtfully, and walked towards the restaurant. Lu Feng suddenly thought of a routine, that is, the establishment of a celebrity, to create a personality for himself, so that others can quickly remember him. Lu Feng has been in contact with many investment companies. Most of them are very general, and many companies invest in the wind. To put it in a bad way, they list the popular industries and companies, and throw a meat bun on the document. When the dog climbs up to eat the meat buns, the paws are randomly selected on several documents, and they may be better than the professionals of the investment company. When it comes to investors, about risk control, the depth of industry development, and future prospects, a lot of professional terms are thrown at them, making ordinary people stunned for a while, as if this group of people are so powerful and professional. In fact, most of the limelight companies have only two choices. First, invest in people. This person is very good at starting a business and has a lot of experience accumulation and contacts. This kind of investment is usually paid directly. You can do whatever industry you like. Second, in the investment industry, if you invest in any industry, you will choose the leading company to spend money, and the limelight of this type of investment industry will never only invest in one, but also many. The industry is called risk sharing, which is actually a dialect. The east side is not bright and the west side is bright. If you catch one, you will earn. Since it is venture capital, it is the pursuit of huge profits, short-term benefits, the fastest realization, and a fortune to go. Lu Feng was eating in the restaurant, and the others were sitting at the same table with Lu Feng, feeling a little nervous while eating. Lu Feng didn't speak, and they didn't dare to speak. They made eye contact with each other. "Help me find a few influential pheasant newspapers and magazines, and tell them that the youngest and richest man in mainland China is here." Lu Feng pondered for a while and asked, "Are there any gossip stars and models, and we can also make arrangements together?" "What?" Everyone present was shocked. "What is Mr. Lu doing?" Li Fang didn't respond either. In their hearts, Lu Feng was a young and promising man, a good young man who never drank alcohol and worked hard, and they didn't know how many girls in the workshop were the dream lover. Why is there a scandal when it arrives here? Didn't you hear it? Lu Feng asked Li Fang. Listen, I heard, Li Fang agreed with a dizzy mind, but she still didn't want to believe it. This is what President Lu said. I don't need the information about those companies in the afternoon, go out with me to buy some clothes and some gold, Lu Feng said to himself, and finished eating. The people present were dumbfounded and didn't know what Mr. Lu was doing. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the others went to contact the newspapers and magazines, while Li Fang accompanied Lu Feng to go shopping. When he arrived at the clothing store, Lu Feng took a look around, picked out a foxtail scarf for himself, and bought a golden dress. Then I went to the gold store and bought a large gold ring, a gold chain, and a gold watch. When I came out of the gold store, the salesman's mouth was almost crooked with laughter. At this time, Lu Feng was definitely the spokesperson for the upstarts. His whole body was dazzling, and he was so dirty that he needed a mouthful of golden teeth. On the way back and forth, many people stared at him with contempt. Li Fang didn't dare to walk too close to Lu Feng. The gazes of people on the road made her unbearable. She really didn't understand what irritated Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu in her heart was handsome, cool, and smart. However now, she even suspected that Lu Feng was crazy, couldn't raise money, was under too much pressure, and was mentally abnormal. Back at the hotel, Lu Feng felt that it was not suitable for him to live here, and asked Li Fang, "Is there a villa for rent here? It's the kind of extravagant one." "Yes," Li Fang reminded, "Mr. Lu, we are here to raise money. If you want to consume, you can do it anytime." I know. Lu Feng glanced at his big gold watch and said, "It's 4:30 in the afternoon, rent me a big villa before 7 p.m., and hire some bodyguards to get in and out of the convoy. Let the financial side spend 5 million first, this money is public expense for business trips." Lu Feng walked upstairs, the fox's tail on his neck was already sweating, and the gold all over his body was too heavy. The rest of Li Fang and the others stood there dumbfounded. "Mr. Lu, is this crazy? What are you talking about? Let's do this first." Li Fang asked his subordinates, "Have you found newspapers, gossip stars, and models? Celebrities are too expensive, and they are not well known, but some newspaper models are very willing. Recently, there is a cover model who is very popular. Every day, I have scandals with this young master and go home with that young master. Let me see." A man took out a magazine, and the photo on the cover was really, in Henan dialect, it was weird. Li Fang blushed. Even a woman nodded her head, and told them to contact them, she had to get a villa, bodyguards, and so on. Sighing, feeling helpless, I thought to myself that keeping a distance between people is the best thing. Once the distance is close, you will find that some people are too far apart from what you imagined. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 427. Back in the room, Lu Feng sat on the sofa and thought about his plan carefully. He wanted to get financing in the short term, and there were still unknown opponents working in secret. It seemed that this was the only way to do it. A few hours later, Li Fang called the finance department to apply for the money, and at the same time rented a luxury villa at the foot of the mountain in Tsim Sha Tsui, contacted the security company, and immediately followed by the lace reporters from the newspapers and magazines, and the gossip models came on the way. With such a large expenditure, the finance department did not dare to make an assertion, and the procedures that should be followed must be followed. When the general manager of the finance department found Zhang Fengxia with the approval note, Zhang Fengxia was dumbfounded after reading the note. I asked for the phone number of Lu Feng's room and called. "Hello, who is it?" Lu Feng answered the phone and asked. "It's me, Zhang Fengxia, are you crazy to go over there?" Zhang Fengxia asked. "I heard them say that you bought a piece of clothes that were terrifying in the afternoon, and also bought a pile of gold, and now you want to rent a villa, hire bodyguards, and find a bunch of models. Yeah, that's right, I did it all. Are you still so righteous? You went there to solve the financing problem, not to be chic. Besides, the big golden chain, the golden ring, are too dirty. Are you looking for a model? Sister Xiao Yan knows what you are doing. Zhang Fengxia became more and more angry, and became emotional. You don't know that the company has no money now, why is this happening all of a sudden? You look for those models, do you look good with us? You're like a machine gun, can you let me say something? Lu Feng was speechless listening to the indignant voice on the other end of the phone. Tell me, you can't say 1, 2, or 3. I'll find you tomorrow with Sister Xiao Yan, and then I'll take the head off for you, Zhang Fengxia said domineeringly. Who am I? It's not like you don't know. Financing, what is financing? It's not just fooling others to pay, I'm packaging myself now. Lu Feng explained to her for more than half an hour, for fear that she would gossip to Zhang Xiao Yan's side. She was a small-minded person and knew that it would be difficult for her to live here. There was a knock on the door of the room, Lu Feng said a word to come in, and Li Fang walked in. She looked at Lu Feng with a complicated look. When she picked up the plane in the morning, she was obviously very excited. Inside GFN Electronics, Lu Feng is the idol of many people, a legendary figure, but at this moment, she feels that the gap between this idol and the person she imagined is too great. Mr. Lu, everything is ready. Are they all here? Are the magazines and newspapers here? Lu Feng said, putting on his gold ring and gold watch. Newspaper reporters and models have already arrived. Recently, the popular model Nini has arrived, and there are 7 or 8 ordinary models, Li Fang replied. Lu Feng nodded with satisfaction, stood up, put on his local tyrant gold coat, and said, let's go and see you. Nini has been really in the limelight recently. She frequently hangs out with the local playboy Tang Zongren, and is photographed by many paparazzi. Plus she shows off her figure, forgets to pull the curtains, pool parties, pregnancy, junior third and high ranking, etc. Extremely hot. When Lu Feng arrived at the meeting room, it was already full of 20 people. In addition to reporters, there were 7 or 8 girls sitting on the sofa. Their makeup was quite coquettish, and their dresses were very blatant. 3 words. This is our boss, President Lu, Li Fang introduced. Her voice was so small that she felt ashamed. Lu Feng was quite generous, his eyes stayed on one of the girls for a few seconds, and nodded, as if he was very satisfied with the white flowers. Sitting on the sofa with Erlang's legs crossed, he put his hand on the armrest of the sofa, 3 large gold rings and a gold watch, bright, and some rumors. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. I'm from the mainland. My surname is Lu, and I'm the chairman of GFN Electronics. Of course, I also have a lot of assets under my name. I'm tired of playing in the mainland, so I want to come and see. Look, I tell you this, on the mainland side, our family is the richest man. The assets are not too much, maybe 100 to 100 million. Lu Feng said slowly, his tone was full of bragging. Mr. Lu, can we start the interview? You can talk about this in a while, said a male reporter. I'm telling you this, I don't mean to look down on you, I just want to show off my wealth. I asked you to come, just for one purpose, to tell all the rich people in Xiangjiang that Lao Tzu is here, and I want to compare with them. Lu Feng moved towards the girls sitting, hooked their fingers and said, what are you doing? Come here. The 2 girls ran over with happy faces, sat on the armrests, and hugged Lu Feng's shoulders. Which one is Nini? Lu Feng asked. Mr. Lu, I'm Nini, the big-breasted man came over. Lu Feng looked at her with a smile, reached out and took out a large amount of money from his pocket and stuffed it directly into his chest. What are you doing? Nini asked in shock. I'm sorry, I'm used to stuffing it. This is the way I give money to women. I stuff everything from sports car keys to bank cards with millions of deposits. Lu Feng took off a gold ring and threw it in, and the other party immediately put it in. With a pleasant face, she sat on Lu Feng's lap and acted coquettishly. You guys, take a few pictures for me, and you can write whatever you want. After a while, I'll go back to the villa with me. This side is too small to stretch out. Lu Feng patted Nini, stood up and waved to the other girls, said, Go. The girls cheered and followed them up and downstairs. The waiting bodyguards surrounded Lu Feng and the others. They were all dressed in suits and black sunglasses. I don't know if they were not professional. Anyway, it was enough to pretend. The first few reporters snapped and patted, and Lu Feng's current state had a feeling of being tied to the extreme. When the guests in the lobby saw such a battle, there was a lot of discussion. Many people stared at him in such a state, and their expressions were full of contempt. Is this guy too rude? It's from the mainland, like a nouveau riche. I've never seen money. Let me tell you, the real rich people are very simple. That's right, there's absolutely no money for this kind of bluff. These words naturally got into Lu Feng's ears, and he was not annoyed. He took out a piece of chewing gum from his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. Reward you. The woman looked at the stack of money in her hand and stayed on the spot. In response, she wanted to say thank you, but she felt shameless. The excitement on her face was beyond words. The few people next to her looked at the money in her hand, full of jealousy. Humph, how much money can I have? I'm begging for food. Yeah, just the taste of clothes, it's disgusting. It's really ugly. Even if he gave me hundreds of thousands, I wouldn't like it. The girl who got the money stared at Lu Feng and walked out of the door, and said sincerely, Don't look at how dirty he is dressed. The one who just threw the money at random was really handsome. The fashion thing is a circle. When he reaches a certain extreme, I suddenly feel that he has an indescribable elegance. Maybe this is the soil to the extreme is the tide. The 5 big men downstairs had already opened their doors. Lu Feng got in the car, Nini sat next to him. Li Fang arranged for everyone to get into a commercial car behind, and the convoy was speeding towards the villa area. Go. Li Fang was not in a good mood along the way. She originally thought that she had screwed up this time, and the company would definitely fire her. Later, when she learned that President Lu was coming, she thought of showing it well. In addition to being able to directly contact President Lu, she still wants to be the second Wei Yandan, but what happened today made her very disappointed, and even wondered if she had a future in a company founded by such a boss. The Lion Mountain Villa area is a Western-style villa area. It is definitely not an ordinary person who can buy a villa here. It is not only a matter of money, but also a problem of background. Many people have money and can only rent. The convoy stopped at the entrance of Villa 266, the door opened, Lu Feng got out of the car and looked at the bright lights in the villa. Tropical trees could be seen in the courtyard. The 3-story villa had everything in it, and the water in the open-air swimming pool was glistening. Hot, microwave sparkling. The courtyard door opened, Lu Feng stretched his arms around Nini's waist and walked forward, surrounded by left and right in front of him and behind him, very ostentatious. The reporters behind him naturally took a shot. They were very afraid of grasping these things. Has experience. Entering the villa, Lu Feng shouted to everyone, change your swimsuit and have a party. In the cheers, champagne and meals have been prepared in the backyard, swimming pools, beautiful women, alcohol, and frolic. Li Fang didn't change his clothes, just ate a casual meal, standing there watching Lu Feng wearing big pants and chasing Nini all over the yard. His laughter was so wild. She couldn't understand how such a person was portrayed as a self-made young talent, and Mr. Zhang, such a beautiful and talented person, actually admired him. Or maybe this is the real high society, and it is always a layer of confused skin for the people below. Lu Feng was having a great time playing around. He drank a lot of wine, and the reporters at the scene also took a lot of photos. It wasn't until after 11 o'clock in the evening that these reporters took the money and left. Several girls drank Xiaofei's cheeks, rubbed Lu Feng's arm, and said coquettishly, "Mr. Lu, rest early, I'm sleepy." Sleepy, Lu Feng changed his face and said indifferently, "Go to sleep when you are sleepy." The girl was taken aback by such a big change in him, and she was stunned on the spot. "Mr. Lu, how are you?" "I'm tired, rest early." Lu Feng put on a bath towel and walked upstairs. When passing by Li Fang, he instructed, "You also rest early. You will be busy tomorrow, so pay attention to the phone." The scene suddenly cooled down, and Nini, who was originally favored, didn't know what to do, and Li Fang was also stunned on the spot. She originally thought that Lu Feng tonight was definitely restricted. Not quite what she thought. Li Fang reacted and quickly arranged rooms for a few models. HTT. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 428. In the largest master bedroom on the second floor, Lu Feng was sitting on the balcony, looking at everything around him, not in a good mood. Tomorrow morning, half of Xiangjiang will know the existence of Lu Feng, a playboy from the mainland. In fact, Lu Feng does not like to appear in this way. Although he is very uncompromising in business, who doesn't want to be respected? This event will leave a mark on his life, enough people to talk about it for a long time. With a sigh, Lu Feng subconsciously reached out to touch the cigarette, only touched the chewing gum, pushed a piece into his mouth, and muttered, "Extraordinary time and extraordinary means." She wanted to call Zhang Xiaoyan to do her homework, glanced at the time, and estimated that she had fallen asleep. The next day, the headlines of gossip entertainment magazines and newspapers represented by Dragon Tiger and Weekly News were full of photos of Lu Feng and Nini. Awesome! Nini left young Master Tang and had a tryst with the richest man in the mainland. The passion in the villa lasted for hours. Playboy Tang Zongren was planted, and Nini was photographed hugging the richest man in mainland China and returning to the love nest together. The richest man in mainland China first arrived here, and he immediately started playing with Nini, playing with a number of models. He is worth tens of billions. All kinds of attractive titles are written in bold and enlarged fonts on them, and the covers are all unsightly photos. When Lu Feng saw these things, he had to sigh, whether it is paparazzi or this edge professional. Taking pictures of myself is particularly wretched, revealing a greasy copper stench. Nowadays, the gossip and newspaper industry in Xiangjiang is very developed. All kinds of sneak shots of paparazzi are idiots, and it is common for celebrities to be photographed. Among them, Dragon Tiger is the industry leader. This kind of newspaper is particularly explicit, and it is not suitable for anyone under the age of 18 to read it. Xiangjiang is already a highly information-developed area. At 9 o'clock in the morning, half of Xiangjiang was fried. Tang Zongren was a good player in the flowers. Over the years, there are countless female stars, models, and celebrities. He has always played with others, but now he is played by others. Looking at the newspapers and magazines on the table, not to mention his hair, his face turned green. He doesn't care about Nini, she's just a passing wild model, but he cares about his face. The richest man in the mainland plays with his woman all the way, and no one can bear it. Mr. Tang, the secretary next to him, was wearing professional attire and black-rimmed glasses. He seemed to know that he was not a serious secretary, and whispered, "Is the morning meeting still open?" "Shut up, where did this Lu Feng come from?" Tang Zhong slapped the table aggressively and shouted, "I'm not finished with him. My lord told you to go to a meeting." When Tang Zongren heard his father let him go, he suppressed the fire in his heart, picked up the folder on the table and handed it to the secretary next to him, and said, "Let's have a meeting first." Fulong Fund, Xiangjiang headquarters, in the chairman's office, Zhuang Yuntian looked at these unsightly things and said gloomily, "I've found you, take my money and have fun here, Lu Feng, you can." Zhuang Yuntian flipped through the newspaper, picked up the phone on the table and called out. A few minutes later, a male clerk walked in and said, "Mr. Zhuang, what are your orders?" "Find out the background of this person and the specific location of the villa behind." Zhuang Yuntian threw the stack of newspapers in front of him. In the villa, the woman just woke up, her hair was loose, and the loose silk pajamas still couldn't cover her beautiful figure. She looked at the newspapers in front of her with a sneer on her face. "Aren't you very good? Can't you handle the past? Even a smart person like you uses such rude tricks. I really feel sorry for you. It seems that you are really poor in your skills. At the time, I thought you were profound. In the shallow waters of the mainland, you are a dragon, and you are all over the world. When you come here, you will wait to drown." Today's gossip hotspot is definitely Lu Feng, the richest man in mainland China. There is nothing more exciting than a rich mainlander coming here, not to mention that this rich is still dressed as a standard bumpkin. They saw that the rich people in the mainland actually fell into the dirt, and their sense of superiority was particularly high. At 10 o'clock in the morning, all kinds of invitations came flying like snowflakes. Some people wanted to take the opportunity to make big news and show their faces. There were also many small star agents who called and said that they could accompany them for free, as long as let's take a few pictures and get some news. For a time, Lu Feng was caught in the whirlpool of public opinion. Li Feng and 7 people couldn't handle so much information at all, so they could only leave some unimportant things aside. "Mr. Lu, these media are not bad. I want to interview you." Li Feng put a form in front of Lu Feng. "There are actually TVB and ATV here." Lu Feng nodded and said, "Make arrangements for lunch, let these two do the work, and the rest will be omitted." "There are still a lot of invitations for dinner parties," Li Feng asked with a stack of invitations. "Which one are you going to?" "It's all tonight. This is really a city that never sleeps. When night falls, countless banquets are going on, and all kinds of business and transactions are going on. It really is hundreds of millions of transactions every minute." Lu Feng flipped through it for a while and saw a dinner party called Financial Night, and asked, "What company does this have? Call and ask." A few minutes later, Li Feng came back and said, "The Financial Enterprise Gathering, this banquet is held every Saturday and Sunday, and the stock market is closed on Saturday and Sunday. These people need such a banquet to spy on the content of the stock market. This banquet is also called the stock market. Weather vane, you can get a lot of news. Go to this." Lu Feng decided. "The rest, throw them in the trash. A lot of them called you, many of them were abusive, some told us to go back to the mainland, some said they were your friends, and some said they wanted to meet you and have sex with you." Li Feng looked with a folder, a brief summary of the classification of the phone calls. Friend, with such a high profile, Lu Feng actually had another idea. He wanted to find out the person who was secretly messing with him. After all, he was in the open and others were in the dark, so he was very passive. "Did you say your name?" Lu Feng asked. "There is a Sister Wu. She said she knew you. She happened to be here and said she could help you," Li Feng said. "Sister Wu?" Lu Feng frowned. This Sister Wu was really haunted, and said, "Call her." Li Feng took a phone and called it according to the number he had written down. Lu Feng was not very cold to people like Sister Wu, so he took the initiative to contact him now because he was unfamiliar with the place he lived in, and he might be able to help. "I'm on the phone." Li Feng handed the phone to Lu Feng. "Mr. Wu, what a coincidence, you are more diligent than me, And you are actually in Xiangjiang, Lu Feng said. I mean, I was stupid when I saw the newspapers and magazines. I didn't expect the two of us to have such a relationship. I run back and forth between Hong Kong and Shenzhen all year round. There are a lot of jobs on both sides, and I know a lot of big bosses. Sister Wu, who was in the head, smiled happily and said, if Mr. Lu needs anything, feel free to say it. I can get along well here. Really? Then I'm welcome. You can talk, as long as the consultation fee is enough, you can find anyone you want. If the other party doesn't want to meet, I can match it, whether it is a wealthy businessman or a celebrity. Sister Wu is very confident. Let's meet at noon. Noodle. Noon, I have an arrangement. Sister Wu, I hope your mouth is stricter, but don't penetrate my bottom, Lu Feng said with a smile. Don't worry, I know everything I do in this business, and my mouth is very strict. Then tomorrow, can you tell me the purpose of this trip? Financing. Okay, I'll arrange it. If you're satisfied, you can check out again, Sister Wu said professionally. Okay, keep in touch, Lu Feng said and hung up the phone. Who else? Lu Feng asked. Just after the question, the phone rang, and Lu Feng picked it up and said, I'm Lu Feng, who is this? Mr. Lu, it's so hard for me to find you. Can't you tell who I am? Lu Feng could hear the gnashing of teeth over the phone. This voice is very recognizable and somewhat familiar, but I can't remember who it is. I do not remember. Of course your nobleman forgets things a lot. You took 50 million from me, and you are here to have fun. There are only a few months left before the content of the contract. What about nationalization as promised? You told me at the time, the high price is owned by the state, let me hold the creditor's rights, and it is trivial to change 50 million to 100 million. Zhuang Yuntian's voice was full of anger. Oh, Mr. Zhuang, it's really a coincidence. I didn't expect you to be in Xiangjiang, and I'm looking for you too. There's been a lot of things in the last year, and I've been too busy. Don't worry, it's impossible to invest in me. Let you be at a loss, let's meet when we have time. Listen to me, fooling you, it's not right, it's the prospect of Lijiafeng Electronics. Lu Feng was talking on the phone, his voice was full of joy, as if Zhuang Yuntian had picked up a big bargain. Let me tell you, now that the country wants to buy me, I won't sell it. If you spend the 50 million yuan, it is now worth 100 million yuan. You don't know the company's operation, so it's not clear on the phone. Let's meet and talk. Lu Feng asked, there is a financial night tonight, will you go? Go. Then see you there. I definitely didn't lie to you. You don't know me yet. I'm just an honest person. I'm very simple and honest. When I grow up, others lie to me. Lu Feng swears and promises. Li Feng on the side was dumbfounded. Who is Mr. Lu? Yesterday he was very romantic, but he didn't do anything to those models. He was usually very cold, but now he is smiling on the phone, very easygoing. As for his simple and honest words, Li Feng can see from his shining eyes. Only saw deceit. After coaxing for a while, he hung up the phone. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief. He really didn't expect that there were so many old friends here. Who else? Lu Feng asked. The phone rang again, picked up the phone and asked, which one? It's me, your old friend, a somber female voice came from the other end of the phone. Hearing this voice, Lu Feng stayed on the spot for a moment. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 429. After such a long time, Su Yorong's voice appeared again. How could Lu Feng not be shocked? Originally he thought he would never meet this person in his life. Perhaps, already buried in the belly of the fish. Why don't you talk? The other end of the phone asked. Long time no see, I didn't expect to meet so many old friends here. Lu Feng sighed with some emotion and said, it's also a fate, It's good that you live. I'm alive, and I'm living very well. I called just to say that I haven't seen you for more than a year. You are really poor, and you have used tricks like pretending to be the richest man in mainland China. Su Yurong on the other end of the phone sneered, very is disdain. Actually, I don't have much ability, I'm just that three-pronged axe, Lu Feng said to the phone. I made you laugh. It doesn't matter if you see or not, I just tell you that you can't raise money here, just like when I wanted to borrow the factory of GMA Foods. When Lu Feng heard this, he already knew in his heart that all the previous matters were her own handwriting. I didn't do anything wrong in the beginning. Everyone is playing a game. If you can't lose, you can blame me. You are plotting against me, and I also have bad intentions for you. Everyone is half-hearted, Lu Feng said solemnly. You're taking revenge on me now, it's not authentic. Revenge? This isn't revenge, it's your retribution. You scumbag deserves what you deserve, Su Yurong shouted hysterically. I want to see you go bankrupt with my own eyes. Just as Lu Feng was about to appease her, the phone was hung up. He looked solemn in his seat. Su Yurong didn't die, this was a relatively high probability. At that time, the fuel tank of the speedboat should be full. But what Lu Feng can't figure out now is that her company has been seized, and the illegal income has also been turned over to the state treasury. This person still has a financial company here? Does Su Yurong understand finance? In Lu Feng's eyes, Su Yurong is a type of people who rose rapidly through the window of the times. They rose rapidly, and then quickly dissipated under the attack of the state. They don't know how to do business, their education level is low, and most of them like to study human connections. But now that Su Yurong is in the financial world of Xiangjiang, the company actually listens to his words, which is very unexpected to Lu Feng. Mr. Lu, the food is ready, and the reporters from the 2 TV stations are here. Li Feng came over and reminded in a low voice. Lu Feng was stunned for a moment, then reacted and said, bring me the clothes. Are those models still around? Still. Let them play too. 10 minutes later, in the large private dining room, 2 reporters stood there waiting. They had also seen the big scene, but this time the private dining room was indeed a bit extravagant. The 7 to 8 meter long solid wood table has gilded plates on it, and 5 or 6 chefs are standing next to it. The roof of the site is very high, with a height of 5 meters, giving people an indescribable sense of emptiness. Lu Feng walked out in a golden light. The 2 little girls next to him held arms and hugged each other. They walked up to the 2 reporters and said with a smile, thank you 2 for the interview. We can chat while eating. It's my honor to be able to interview you. You don't look very old, don't you? A reporter said. I'm 25 years old this year. I'm indeed a little young, but that doesn't prevent me from sitting on the position of the richest man in mainland China, Lu Feng said and walked towards the dining table. According to some information we have heard, you only have 2 companies, GFN Electronics and GMA Food. Another reporter stood aside. This is just a part of my industry. Where did you find this? Lu Feng raised his head and asked. I have a few inland friends, so I called and asked. My friend, it seems that your friend knows me better than I do. Lu Feng stretched out his hand and said, please sit down. The 2 sat down, the interview was officially started, and the chef started serving the dishes. Nini sat next to Lu Feng. She can handle this situation better than anyone else. She leaned on Lu Feng and stretched out her hand in a pretentious manner, and used a fork to gently put something into Lu Feng's mouth. At present, there is no rich list in the mainland. In fact, many people want to know the wealth of the rich in the mainland. You said that you have tens of billions of assets, and you are still so young, it seems a little difficult to convince the public. Lu Feng was eating and said without looking up, GFN Electronics, GMA Food and other things are just my casual play. Don't look at the mainland with that impoverished look, go to Shenzhen to have a look. We are also very rich now, and as for me being so rich at such a young age, guess why? Then do you know that this Miss Nini belongs to Mr. Tang Zongren? I only belong to myself, not to anyone. Nini choked. There is nothing between me and Tang Zongren, besides, he is 7 or 8 years older than me, it is impossible, I am a good girl, will not mix with this kind of person. Mr. Lu seems to have become a home, right? The reporter asked. Lu Feng felt that the topic was a bit off the entertainment side. He put down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth. He said, let's not talk about this, we can talk about business. Are you very powerful in the mainland for your identity? I can't say it's very powerful. At best, you can cover the sky with one hand. You can go to the mainland to inquire. No one dares to provoke me. The two companies are developing so fast. It's not a matter of phone calls to get land and subsidies everywhere. Lu Feng's face was full of arrogance, he chewed the food with Erlang's legs crossed, and said, I'm tired of playing over there, come here to play. What does your father do? This is not something you should ask. Knowing it is not good for you. As for me, firstly, I came here to play, and secondly, I want to see the financial thing, spend some money, and have a play, Lu Feng said to the two of them. When you say throw some money, how much are you going to spend? Financial companies have a lot of startup capital. 20 or 3 billion, in fact, money is really just a number to me. I was secretly photographed by those paparazzi. Yesterday, they came over and asked me, where did it come from, what did it do, and asked how much money I have. I thought about it, and said 10 billion, which is actually a casual number. I know there are many rich people here, so I want to keep a low profile, Lu Feng said seriously. Saying that he is worth tens of billions is to keep a low profile? The two reporters are also old reporters. They have interviewed a lot of wealthy people, and those who like to pretend to be forceful are also interviewed, but they are not like Lu Feng. Have you ever thought about frying the pot every day the next day? No, I think it's only 10 billion. As for the hype, it's a little weird, right? Since 10 billion is not much for you, spending 20 to 30 billion to play finance is a trivial matter for you, the reporter asked. I can't say trivial things. How can I say this? Lu Feng scratched his head, looking a little shy, and said, so, it seems too crazy. I like to be low-key and mean to be moderate. Moderately mean. The two reporters looked embarrassed and looked at each other, as if, more mad. The Lion Mountain villas are all rented out, why don't you just buy them? The reporter looked around and said, you said you were so rich, but you didn't see any big money. Stop, stop, Lu Feng raised his hand to stop her words and said, from your question, I can see that you are really poor, so let me buy the villa here. In fact, if I want to buy it, I really don't have a lot of money. The problem is that after buying it and staying a few times, you may forget it. Forgot? What do you mean? I have too many properties all over the world, some properties I can't remember until now, maybe it will never wait for me, in a corner of the world abandoned. This kind of situation is for you who only have a few houses. It may not be common for people, but the problem is, it really bothers me. Lu Feng sighed worriedly, looking rather helpless. The female reporter began to sweat on her forehead. The question she asked was to make Lu Feng reveal that he was not the richest man. After all, Lu Feng was someone he could inquire about in Shenzhen. As a reporter, who has few friends. I didn't expect such a question, but the other party showed a sense of superiority. What do you think is the difference between Xiangjiang and the mainland? The other party looked at Lu Feng with some anticipation in his eyes. All he wanted to hear was Lu Feng's compliments here, to make them feel a little superior. I think this is a very good place and the location is great, but the people here are average and the development is average, Lu Feng said very directly. Very ordinary? Please. Here are the 4 Asian tigers. 2 of the 4 little dragons are the claws of giant dragons. There is no continent. These two little dragons are two worms. With such good conditions, they have only achieved the current level of modernization. To be honest, they are only normal development, and there is no strongman. Lu Feng pondered for a while, and then said, the difference between the two sides is still very obvious. Some parts of the mainland are still poor, but this side is very developed. The financial industry here is highly developed, and many mainland companies also come here to backdoor listings. As far as I know, GFN Electronics under the name of President Lu has always been losing money. Lu Feng picked up the towel and wiped his mouth, then threw it on the table, patted Nini's waist beside him, and said, go back to your room first. Then I'll go back first, I love you, Nini said, kissing Lu Feng on the cheek, and wriggling away with the other girls. Lu Feng stood up and walked towards the garden outside the restaurant. The two reporters hurriedly followed. As a person like me, whether it's running a business or making friends, I never care if the other party has money, let alone whether it makes money or loses money in running a business, because these two problems are meaningless. As long as I want, the next second GFN Electronics it can be completely profitable, and doing a business is just to be happy, and making products is not for making money. What's that for? Make friends. Lu Feng waved his hands dismissively and walked towards the golf course. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 430. The golf course in the back garden is not big, and it is barely enough to play alone. Lu Feng is no stranger to golf. Holding the club with both hands, with the swing out, with a bang, the golf ball shot out, rolled for a while, and fell into the hole. It is good. The crowd applauded. Mr. Lu's golf is really good. It's okay, I haven't played for a while, I'm very unfamiliar. Lu Feng walked to the next ball. Mr. Lu, you know that Miss Nini is Tang Zongren's girlfriend. I heard that he is going to trouble you now, a reporter asked. What does this Tang always do? Lu Feng said and swung again. Tang Zongren's family is in the shipping industry. It is the third largest shipping group in Xiangjiang. At the same time, it also trades in bulk goods. Maybe you don't know, Mr. Tang's family can't be said to cover the sky with one hand, at least half of the sky. Lu Feng said with a smile. I don't know what the richest man, Mr. Lu, would be like when he met the great Master Tang. Lu Feng naturally heard that the other party was provoking something. He stuck his golf club with both hands, and said without fear, I am a human being, only beasts would fight for the opposite sex. Of course, if this young Master Tang has anything to do with me, if you have any comments, you can chat with me anytime. The interview is over, and the effect they want has been achieved. The hottest thing today is that Tang Zongren, a playboy, has eaten up. As for the richest man in the mainland, not many people are interested. In the afternoon, the interview began to be broadcast on TV. The collision between Lu Feng, a playboy from the mainland, and Tang Zongren, a local playboy, immediately aroused the interest of many people. Even ordinary employees in some financial buildings take the time to gossip. Lu Feng took some time to call Zhang Xiaoyan to report that he was safe, but didn't talk much. Now that the time is very tight, he sorted out the upstream company of the company that rejected GFN Electronics before. In the aspect of the bank, Su Yu absolutely can't get involved. She doesn't have such great energy. As for the insurance company, it is unlikely. The only remaining is Chen's Capital, which is the guarantee. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, some simple information of Chen's Capital was placed on the table. Chen's Capital, the chairman of the board is Chen Guihua, 53 years old this year, a mainlander, the first group of people to go to sea, and they went to Hong Kong in the 1970s. Is a rather legendary woman. It is said that she came here from Shenzhen, and there is no way to tell whether it is true or false. She started from odd jobs, and the main way to succeed is to get married. She has married 6 men, and every time she gets married is a step up in class. From a small boss to a real estate developer, Lu Feng was a little shocked by this woman's profile. Li Fang seemed to see Lu Feng's surprise. She was shocked when she got this document. This woman is simply a strange person. The document shows that she only has primary school education. Are these real? Lu Feng asked. These are all public information, so they shouldn't be fake. I called those consulting companies and asked about the situation. This Mr. Chen has a very strong learning ability. When he married a real estate developer, he studied design crazily. The design of the community was drawn by her. After divorcing her ex-husband 8 years ago, she founded Chen's Capital with $10 million, and it gathered hundreds of millions of dollars within a year, and has since established a firm foothold. She has a very wide network of contacts. To sell her face, the company is mainly engaged in guarantee listing, fund guarantee, and stock investment, and has long-term heavy holdings in Tianyu Steamship, Sony Electronics, and Harem Trading. At the same time, it has close capital exchanges with many big banks. Last year, the capital flow reached 60 billion Hong Kong dollars, and the net profit was 300 million, an increase of 12%. Lu Feng frowned upon hearing such data. What does Su Yorong have to do with her? This, I didn't find out. Consulting companies don't inquire about this kind of thing. Self-made women, which one is a simple role, the way they go. I don't know how many twists and turns are compared with those who have achieved academic success. In the evening, the weekly financial night is about to start, and many people have already started to dress up carefully. Whenever the market opens on Monday, no one knows whether they will see each other again next weekend, or whether it is the original him. Some people seized the opportunity to become rich overnight, while others plummeted. In this fast-paced city, miracles are happening every day. People are in a hurry, looking up at the mountains of gold and silver, and no one pays attention to the dry bones under their feet. Tang Zongren was so angry when he watched the interview on TV. It was really unbearable and unbearable. When he opened an account in the morning, his father told him not to cause trouble. Dispensable things, don't take care of them. If this doesn't make sense, how can I mess with you? Leave. Tang Zongren shouted angrily and kicked on the coffee table in front of him. No matter who he was, he came here, and it was Tang Zongren's territory. Call that one in, Tang Zongren shouted. After a while, an unruly female secretary in business attire walked in and asked, "Mr. Tang, what are your orders?" "This thing, it's him." Tang Zongren pointed at Lu Feng, who was playing golf on the TV, and asked, "How is the investigation? Where is the person?" "There is news that he has accepted the invitation to the financial night dinner tonight and should be there." "I'm going to," Tang Zongren shouted. "Okay, I'll arrange it, don't be angry, I'm just a model, I'm not always by your side," the female secretary said gently. "It's a woman's business. It's a humming slap in the face, do you understand? Lose his mother, so hey," Tang Zongren scolded angrily. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng finally finished his work. As for Su Yorong, he didn't want to think about it. Lu Feng didn't believe that Chen's Capital could cover the sky. If you want to block the way of GFN Electronics financing, one Su Yorong is not enough, Xiangzhang is not enough, the big deal is that he can fly to Wall Street. The most important thing in this world is investors, and the most lacking is actually good projects. A car parked at the door of the villa, the door opened, Sister Wu was dressed delicately, glanced towards the courtyard, rang the doorbell, and 2 little girls came down from the car to help her carry her bag. This woman is always accompanied by little girls wherever she goes, and she doesn't look like a serious person. The courtyard door opened, and Sister Wu strode in, with a happy smile on her face. She had already seen that she could make a fortune on Lu Feng, and the emperor deserved it. A housekeeper stood at the main entrance of the villa, with a standard smile on his face, and said, "Please come with me, Mr. Lu is waiting for you in the living room." "Okay, okay." Going to the largest living room on the second floor, Lu Feng sat on the sofa staring at the tea in front of him in a daze. "Sir, your distinguished guest is here," the butler came over and said. Lu Feng regained his senses, raised his head and glanced at Sister Wu, and said, "Sit down. Meeting Mr. Lu here is really fate. I'll tell you, leave a business card. You will use me sooner or later. Now is the opportunity to cooperate." Sister Wu sat down and said, moving towards the two girls waved. The two girls were about to sit next to Lu Feng. "Go and sit over there," Lu Feng waved his hand and rushed out. "Come and sit with me, Mr. Lu hasn't seen him for a while. This outfit is very unique, with a kind of heroic appearance that is covered in golden armor, rushing through the battlefield," Sister Wu flattered. The two little girls next to her were also flattering with smiles all over their faces. "If your ability is to flatter you, you can leave now." Lu Feng raised his head and said, "How's the connection? We know a lot of financial company executives, and we made a lot of calls in the afternoon. They are very interested in you now, and they all want to see you. I have to say, Mr. Lu, your move is really high, compared to when you go to someone else. Eating behind closed doors, it is too strong." Sister Wu's face is full of admiration, and it can be seen that she is sincere. She knows that if the company takes the initiative to seek financing from a financial company, it is easy to be closed. With Lu Feng's move, all financial companies are eyeing him, and the initiative is in his hands. Never mind an ordinary company. This time there is a lot of financing. Ordinary companies can't bear it. They need to screen the resources in your hands," Lu Feng said. "What kind of goals do you have? You can tell me." "It's, Lu Feng slapped his mouth and said, "The kind of stupid people who have a lot of money." Sister Wu's face froze when she heard this request. She took a deep breath and said, "There are no fools in the financial company." "Then find some good fools." "Well, I will attend the financial night dinner in the evening. There will be a private bureau. I will introduce you as an intermediary. Whether it is successful or not, you have established a strong network here. I do this to introduce you to the people you want to know." "It's just people," Sister Wu said with a smile. "This fee. You say 1 million, I've used all the relationships that can be used for you. If it works, it's 1 million. If it doesn't, it's 500,000. Sister Wu looked at Lu Feng unnaturally. "This price is a bit expensive, and has far exceeded the industry price. If it is successful, I will give you 500,000 yuan. If it is not successful, I will have nothing at all. Now I don't know how many people want to know me. You are just helping fuel the flames." Lu Feng stared at her and said, "Okay, we have such a fate, 300,000 or 500,000, it doesn't make much sense, a big boss like you. Since it doesn't make much sense, then 300,000, Lu Feng laughed and said, "I don't care about the difference of 200,000. Mr. Lu, you." Sister Wu was very embarrassed. Seeing her promise so happily, Lu Feng knew in his heart that he had paid a little too much. "If you accept it, go to dinner together. If you don't accept it, you can leave." Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and raised his legs. "Okay." Sister Wu didn't expect that Lu Feng was such a stingy owner. He had to look down at the price of 200,000 yuan. He gritted his teeth and said, "I will lose money to do it for you, all as a friend." "Okay." Lu Feng stretched out his hand towards her, the two shook hands and said, "Happy cooperation." HTT. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 431. The financial banquet has been held for several years. It is as ordinary as a meal on weekdays. However, tonight it attracted a lot of interest. Even if they are not interested in Monday's opening, they want to squeeze in and watch the fun today. At 6:30 in the evening, the banquet had just started, and the crowd was already surging. Many people looked around and inquired about Lu Feng in private, and some people were going to watch Tang Zongren's jokes. "Oh, Mr. Hao. Long time no see, long time no see. You're here too, how's it going? Did you see Tang Zongren?" "No, that Lu Feng didn't even see it. I've been hanging around here for 10 minutes with a wine glass. There are really many people today." "Well, I heard that the quota of 500 people is full. This is the first time I've heard of the richest man in the mainland. Aren't you doing business in the mainland? Have you heard of this person?" "No, no, let me tell you, there are rich people on the mainland, but they are all in private. There is no wealth ranking list, and no one knows how deep the water is. No matter how much he is, just watch the fun. The currency exchange rate has fluctuated a lot recently. Are you interested?" "I can't play, I've stopped frying these." There were 4 or 5 men sitting in the private room upstairs. All of them looked old-fashioned. One of them wore glasses, had a big back, and held a cigar in his hand. He had an aura of high status. "Mr. Feng, there are a lot of people today. The financial banquet has not had so many people for a long time." Mr. Feng stared downstairs. "The richest man from the mainland is a bit interesting. He made such a big move in a short period of time. If this person plays the stock market, I think he is a good player. Stock is not a short-term sprint, it's an investment study. President Zhang still thinks that the stock market is a place to gamble, and you should go to a casino." The people present laughed. In terms of investment, Sun Hongkai, a subsidiary of Mr. Feng, is definitely the leader of Hong Kong. It is not yet the world of the Li family, and Mr. Feng is the well-deserved leader of Hong Kong. There are not 2 giants of the He family and the Huo family. Sun Hongkai investments mainly focus on precious metals, international currencies, bulk trade, and holding investments. The subsidiary holding company is HSBC Holdings. With this one company, you can see his financial status here. Is he coming? I've already accepted the invitation. I'm here today to see what people from this continent want to do. I think he just wants to play wild. I heard you're young. A young man in his 20s, it's normal to do such a thing." Mr. Feng picked up the cigar and took a sip. He didn't think that Lu Feng came to Xiangjiang just to make a fool of himself. Even if Lu Feng was a second-generation ancestor, in such a large area as the mainland, what kind of girl would there not be? In his eyes, this layer of appearance is too fragile to support Lu Feng to make such a big deal, and the news broke overnight, which was obviously carefully planned. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng's car parked at the entrance of the hotel, the door opened, Lu Feng walked down, and tidied up the exaggerated foxtail scarf on his body. A group of security guards surrounded him. The doorman here has also seen the big world, and the big boss has never seen it, but it is the first time to see such a big battle. Lu Feng glanced around, walked inside, took out a wad of money and threw it out, expressionlessly. "You're rewarded." The doorman, the welcome guest, and the security guard were lying on the ground frantically grabbing money. Seeing this situation, the receptionist in the lobby hurried forward and asked, "Hello, which banquet are you attending? Please show the invitation." Lu Feng waved his hand towards Li Fang and motioned her to give the invitation. Li Fang took out the invitation, and the other party glanced at it and led the way. "Please come with me." The group of people was mighty, and the scene was full of boarding the elevator. When they left, everyone on the scene talked a lot. "Who is that person? So arrogant." I don't know, but it's really arrogant." I'll go over and ask. A man walked down to the reception and asked, who was that who went up just now? From the mainland. Het. Mainland buns. In the banquet hall, Zhuang Yuntian had already arrived. He walked around the venue, looking for Lu Feng, but found that everyone in the room was looking for Lu Feng. In terms of building momentum, Zhuang Yuntian has to admit that Lu Feng is indeed capable. If this person can be his own marketing director, he will definitely be a good player. Of course, Lu Feng was the marketing director for him, but he didn't dare to use it, for fear that when he entered the company one day, he would find that the company was no longer his own. This kind of person is a white-eyed wolf and cannot be raised. The more Zhuang Yuntian thought about it, the more angry he became. He had also traveled at home and abroad. He was deceived by this thing and believed his nonsense. The most important thing was that Huang Youwei helped to testify. The words of an official are nothing. Zhuang Yuntian scolded the street angrily while standing at the door. As soon as Lu Feng got out of the elevator, he waved his hand towards the people behind him and said, "Don't block me, stand behind me and block some people later." "I'll stop you." Sister Wu stepped forward and volunteered. "You can't stop it?" "It's okay, I know there are a lot of people who want to find you. I used to help celebrities stop fans." Sister Wu believed herself. "I'm not asking for my autograph." "What's that for?" "It's just, there are too many enemies, so they might rush to hit me." Lu Feng looked at her and said, "Can you stop it?" Sister Wu stepped back without saying a word, and pulled her two little girls aside by the way, so as not to be beaten. "Please come here." The receptionist made a gesture of invitation. Before Lu Feng took 2 steps, he saw Zhuang Yuntian jogging over and shouted as he ran, "Lu Feng! Where are you going today? I tell you, if you don't pay back today, I'm not finished with you." He ran up to the front and the whole person was furious. During this year, he was scolded by the company. It was 50 million. After the contract time, if the money cannot be recovered, he will not be able to keep his position as the person in charge. President Zhuang, it's been a long time since I've seen him. He's getting more and more handsome. He's still good looking. Lu Feng looked at him and praised him. "Stop talking nonsense." Zhuang Yuntian grabbed Lu Feng's collar, completely lost his temper, and shouted, "Repay the money." "Mr. Zhuang, this is not necessary. Maybe you have misunderstood our cooperation method. Let's change the place and have a chat alone." "Okay," Lu Feng said to him. "I don't listen to you, just 2 words now, pay back the money." Zhuang Yuntian was bitten to death, and he didn't listen to any other nonsense, just 2 words, pay back the money. "Okay, pay back the money, let's chat over there," Lu Feng said. The security guards next to him had already surrounded him. In their eyes, as long as they threatened Lu Feng, they could do it. "Don't do it, these are good friends." Lu Feng knew that to deal with Zhuang Yuntian, he could not rely on fists and feet, but his brain. A single punch would not solve the problem, so he had to be brainwashed in all directions. "Let's go, please." Lu Feng put his arms around Zhuang Yuntian's shoulders and said to the receptionist, "Prepare us a living room." At this time, Zhuang Yuntian still felt that he would definitely be able to get 50 million back from Lu Feng. Years later, when he recalled this episode, he could not laugh or cry. When Lu Feng put his arms around his shoulder, not only could he not get the 50 million back, but might have to post a lot. In the living room, Lu Feng closed the door, looked at him and sighed, "Sit down, I wanted to call you, but you are so emotional." "I'm busy and I've never been free. I'm not saying I won't pay you back, mainly because brother, I can't watch to make a lot of money and push you out." Zhuang Yuntian sat there with a cold face, didn't listen to anything, just 2 words, repay the money. "Look at you." Lu Feng sat down and wanted to smoke a cigarette in a hurry. After touching it for a long time, he handed him a piece of chewing gum, and said, "You can pay me back, just listen to me first, I didn't lie to you, Jia Feng. Electronics does have a plan to acquire a state-owned enterprise, and when I first founded it, I ran for this. I had dinner with Huang Youwei that day, and you also heard that you know my brother and me. I'm an honest person. I'm very stupid, so I'll work hard. I'm very grateful for your investment in me, and I'll always keep it in my heart. You are the gift of knowing. Repay the money, Zhuang Yuntian said coldly. Why didn't it work later? At that time, the national plan was to cultivate a group of private high-tech enterprises. I planned to get a shell and sell it. I didn't expect it to be done. Now GFN Electronics is worth 10 billion yuan. How much? 10 billion, Zhuang Yuntian smiled disdainfully and said, did you bully me for not staying in the mainland? Is the mainland worth 10 billion companies? But the valuation of GFN Electronics has reached 10 billion. Whether we are in the market, products, parks, or machines, the value is very high. For the new factory in Dongguan, the municipal government has given 300 million loans and free land. 100 million foreign exchange indicators, you can inquire about these. Don't talk about that, Suzhou cheated me for a sum, and this time dragged me to Dongguan to cheat? Mr. Liu, I didn't bully people like that. I have a request now, you humming pay me back. Zhuang Yuntian smashed the table with his hands. I really want to bring you a fortune, no more than a month at most, and your 50 million can become 100 million. Since you don't take me as a brother, then I can't help it. Lu Feng sighed and looked very depressed. What 100 million? I don't even believe a punctuation mark you said now. You can believe it, yes, brother, I let you down. Shut up, don't open your mouth and shut up, brother. Brothers like you are disposable products. I'll ask you one thing. Did you make it happen when you agreed to buy a state-owned enterprise? You breached the contract. I didn't do it, but I haven't breached the contract now. The contract is in January next year, and there is still more than a month left, Lu Feng said solemnly, I can double your time for a month. Hum off, Zhuang Yuntian leaned on the sofa and said with a dark face, repay the money. HTT. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 434. Although Mr. Feng didn't know the purpose of Lu Feng's trip, he definitely saw through his tricks at a glance. Lu Feng knew very well that he didn't have any connections in Xiangjiang, so if he wanted to raise money, he had to take the initiative to find a financial company. This kind of initiative to find someone else would make him very passive. In addition, there was another Su Yorong who played a role in it. Not to mention the low probability of success, it would take a long time, and it would definitely be a slap in the face. If these financial companies can take the initiative to find Lu Feng and put the right to choose in his hands, the result will be much faster, and in this selection process, it is very decent. So he started to build momentum. Lu Feng knew very well how to play with the media. After all, he had done new media in his last life, and he knew marketing very well. Wild models, mainlanders, the richest man, local turtles, and showing off their wealth are all keywords in Xiangjiang now. They are very sensitive and will explode at one point, not to mention the hotspot of Tangzongren. It exploded overnight, as expected. After doing so many things, accepting some TV interviews, and taking advantage of the situation to push the atmosphere to a high point, the purpose of everything is for the scene just now, so that hundreds of people present listen to him. In fact, in life, this method can also be used. If you are afraid that you will be on stage and no one will pay attention, you can make some news a few days in advance. In this way, everyone will look forward to your appearance. In the lounge, the assistant walked in with a stack of documents and handed it to Mr. Feng. These are the documents of GFN Electronics. I called a friend in the mainland to check it out. This person is really not an ordinary person. Oh? Why isn't it a common law? Others suddenly became interested. I called a few of his competitors through relationships. According to their words, this person did everything he could to do everything he could. His methods were dirty and disgusting, even though he was young. But the technique is sophisticated and the government is very deep, not as good-faced as ordinary young people, strong in vanity, but shameless and skinless. It's normal for competitors to be so abusive. My reputation is not much better in the mouths of those companies. Mr. Feng laughed. I felt that way at first, and the people behind him praised him. This Lu Feng started from scratch. Including this year, it will only take him 3 years. He came out of a small county and first made GMA food. It became a local pillar enterprise, and later took 100 million yuan and became GFN Electronics. 3 years. Even if the people present have seen strong winds and waves, they are still in shock at the moment. A company has been in business for 3 years, and it is already a powerful person to be able to gain a firm foothold. Lu Feng not only made a local pillar enterprise, but also made GFN Electronics. This ability is not something ordinary people have. Is there any other news? Mr. Feng put the information of GFN Electronics directly on the table, and there was no need to read it. He came this time for financing. GFN Electronics was reorganized a few months ago. It is said that he wants to follow the route of technology, industry, and trade, strengthen research and development, and there is a large funding gap. If he wants to raise funds, he sent a team. It's fine, and finally, Mr. Chen stepped in, and it's yellow. Mr. Chen. Chen's capital. Chen Laoba. Mr. Feng frowned and said, what kind of grievance do these two have? Chen Laoba? Isn't it Chen Laokai? The person beside him asked curiously. Look at you, the news is not well informed. Mr. Chen has left again, and the 8th has also been laid off. The person next to him joked, maybe he has become Chen Laoju. Ha 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 ha. There was a lot of laughter at the scene. The speed of Mr. Chen changing men is the fun of their circle, but Mr. Chen and Mr. Feng are not good. The two have conflicts in business, and Mr. Feng and Mr. Chen are the 6th men have had conflicts and fights. The two feel a little incompatible now. Don't go out and talk nonsense, or people will sue me again. Mr. Feng asked his assistant, does Chen Laoba know him? Should not know, as for why? Then I don't know, I can't find out. The assistant answered truthfully. Call him for a private banquet in a while. Mr. Feng waved his hand, indicating that he could go out. When the people present heard that they were going to call Lu Feng, they were all shocked. They glanced at each other and felt that Mr. Feng took this child from the mainland very seriously. In the venue, Lu Feng was eating a small cake, and his eyes were on the people around him, and at the same time, many eyes were on Lu Feng. Mr. Zhuang? Oops, long time no see, a loud voice sounded, and then hugged Zhuang Yuntian. Mr. Li, long time no see, you are getting richer and richer, Zhuang Yuntian said politely. Mr. Zhuang, I heard that you are now in charge of the expansion of Fulong Fund in the mainland. How did you get involved with such a person? Mr. Li said in a low voice, and quietly glanced at Lu Feng next to him. Lu Feng's ears were very thirsty, and he coughed, reminding Zhuang Yuntian to pay attention to what he said. When Zhuang Yuntian heard this cough, he scolded in his heart, if it wasn't for the 50 million, I wouldn't play with you, but he still said, Mr. Li, you don't know much about the mainland. For the past 2 years, Lu is always a rookie, has been firmly seated as the richest man. Really? Brother, give me the bottom line. I want to invest in the mainland. What do you think of this President Lu? I heard what he said just now. His family is very powerful in the mainland. Zhuang Yuntian still knew Mr. Li fairly well. Among the businessmen, this person could only be regarded as an ordinary person. Unlike Lu Feng, he was one of the top businessmen. Before meeting Lu Feng, Zhuang Yuntian never felt that he would be deceived, but this year he felt that he was being tricked around, just like the one who was sold and returned to count the banknotes. For a brain like Mr. Li, forget it. Playing with someone like Lu Feng, not to mention the heavy debts, is probably going to be bankrupt. Seeing the two of them muttering, Lu Feng walked over and said, "Mr. Zhuang, your friend. Let me introduce you." Zhuang Yuntian was startled, like protecting a little sheep. He blocked President Li behind him, looked at Lu Feng and said, "President Lu, he has no money." "What's this called? I never make friends to see if they have money." "I don't have money anyway." Lu Feng grinned and stretched out his hand towards President Li. "Hello. Mr. Lu, hello, hello." The other party spoke fluent Mandarin, held Lu Feng's hand with both hands, and said, "I am very interested in investing in the mainland." "Really?" Lu Feng became happy and asked, "What do you do?" "I do electromechanical, mainly parts, imported from Japan's Takatorai Electromechanical, and then install some of our parts and sell them to the mainland," Mr. Li introduced. Listening to his business, Lu Feng felt that he didn't have much money. "Then how much assets do you have now?" "How much liquidity?" Lu Feng asked. "My assets can't be compared with yours. Now the company's value is about 200 million yuan, and its working capital is 20 million yuan," the other party said with a smile. Lu Feng's smiling face is gone. This size is smaller than GFN Electronics. GFN Electronics still has 30 million working capital. Mr. Li sensed the change in Lu Feng, and hurriedly said, "I mainly want to make a fortune with you, and take care of the business in the mainland. Let's have a meal in a while, and I will be the host." "I'm a little full all of a sudden, sorry," Lu Feng declined. Zhuang Yuntian breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Feng did one thing very well. He didn't cheat the poor. A boss like Mr. Li would not even look at him. If you want to pit, you will pit large financial institutions. Lu Feng wandered around the scene, and many people came to him. They changed their names and inquired about the company. Basically, they were all companies with assets of 300 million to 500 million yuan. This kind of company is considered a middle-level structure in Xiangjiang. In the eyes of outsiders, they are big companies, but in the eyes of people like Lu Feng who want to stand up and support GFeng's electronic skeleton, these people are not enough. He just wanted to find a big company, take a breath of blood, and let GFeng Electronics develop rapidly within a year or two. This rapid development is a leap-forward development, relying on Lu Feng's foresight of the future, identifying the direction of product development, and throwing money into it. To put it simply, it is to establish a modern technology company of the 21st century in the 1990s, enter the 21st century with the attitude of a behemoth, and then hang up the 21st century's awesome company. Many people at the scene found Lu Feng, hoping that he would buy his own company's stock, boasting about the company's future, and some people asked him to invest. In an hour, the people around him have changed several times, and the number of people has gradually decreased. Seeing that he has nothing to gain, Sister Wu stepped forward and said, "Mr. Lu, there is no way to gain anything in the hall, everyone is for a private dinner. I made an appointment for a dinner, and they are all big bosses." "How old is the boss?" Lu Feng frowned and said, "The kind that can't even pay 1 or 200 million, let's forget it. They're all financial companies with billions of dollars." "Don't worry, I've always been reliable when I do things," Sister Wu said with confidence. Lu Feng nodded and asked, "Where?" "Come with me." Sister Wu walked towards a door on the left. Seeing that Lu Feng was about to leave, Zhuang Yuntian stepped forward and said, "Mr. Lu, I won't accompany you for now." "You're busy." Lu Feng waved his hand and didn't care, as long as Zhuang Yuntian didn't make a fuss. Li Feng hurriedly followed. A group of people went out and walked downstairs. At the door of a private room, Sister Wu opened the door first and walked in. There were 8 or 9 middle-aged men sitting inside. "Mr. Xia, I didn't mean to introduce you to a big boss from the mainland. They are here today." Let's get to know each other. They have a special identity in the mainland and have admired Mr. Xia for a long time. The main reason is that you will definitely work together happily. Sister Wu greeted the people with a smile. Where's the person? Sister Wu is doing things, I'm most at ease, President Xia said politely. Where's the door? Everyone looked at the door one after another. They were very curious about this boss from the mainland. Sister Wu had been in a relationship several times before, and they could work together. In this place in Xiangjiang, people like Sister Wu are inseparable. The door opened, and Lu Feng walked in swaggeringly. In an instant, the heat in the audience seemed to be poured into a basin of cold water. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent Mobile Version Reading Website.